Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Ultimate General American Revolution Early Access. So it's very early days of early access. There's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of things that do need to be improved on, and obviously this is not the final product. But I did want to talk about how to play the game at the moment, some of the important things to cover. Now, I've covered how to secure early game dominance and set yourself up on the road to success in order to be able to capture Boston, which I have been able to manage over here in this campaign before the end of May even, just like at the very end of it. But of course, there's still some British forces. There's like well over 1,000 troops still present over here. But considering the British did start with about like over 7, well, they started with 4,000 in Boston. They got about 3,000 reinforcement, 4,000 reinforcement. So we ended up in a situation like where I dealt with like 8,000 troops, and they're down to like 1,400. I've been annihilating them. Now, battles, what you need to know about battles is this. Just a simple thing. Engaging in melee or engaging in a direct fight with the British regulars is suicide unless you have a 3-to-1 advantage. Now, that doesn't mean you have a 3-to-1 advantage in the battle, but that means you need to have a 3-to-1 advantage or 2-to-1 advantage on a local level. So one of the things you would do in battles, one of the things you should seek to do, is you seek to secure or to delay the enemy on certain flanks, hold them off, while massing troops on portions of the battlefield and eliminating units with that 3-to-1, 2-to-1 advantage. It's defeat in detail, basically. Massing forces on a particular section of the front. Also, you want to recruit and be aggressive with recruiting in order to be able to do so. So get as many militia companies as you can early on, because you will only start with militias. The militias did win the Battle of Boston, so just keep that in mind. Or rather, the siege of Boston. But here, what I want to talk about are some of the campaign factors that you need to take into consideration. Like, you want to take a territory, though one of the things to understand is you shouldn't view the game like something you're just going to be able to win very, very quickly. Like, you shouldn't view things as something you're just going to be able to win very quickly. Like, Boston is going to take a significant effort, and some things may be slow. So you have to play the long game against the British. They have the more powerful armies than you, significantly better units, far more artillery, and you have to build everything from scratch. And that's kind of what I want to focus on here, building that from scratch. So early on, the way you recruit units is you go over here to any settlement. Though what's crucial about this is when you're constructing units, you have to worry about this map, the supply lines map. So you will start with Hartford. That is the main hub that you start with early on, and you want all your settlements to be connected. This is one of the reasons why taking Boston early on is so important, because it's like, well, as you can see, it's a major supply line sits through Boston that links a lot of your territory. So actually taking it as quickly as possible and trying to link your territories as quickly as possible is important. Same with taking Fort Rice over there. It would be very significant, and obviously I would want to get Providence and Newport back under my control as quickly as possible. So keeping in mind the supply line situation is going to be important. Now, here are some of the things you want to keep in mind. Like, one of the objectives you'll get early on is to build production infrastructure in the map. This is something done through construction management, and you've got various things over here. But the more important thing is to get production. And so what I've done is, like, I've been building production. It's almost finished in Hartford. Now, this will take 40 construction material, and it will cost some money. The construction material situation is actually going to be pretty important to increase. But how do you increase it? Well, you gain certain regions on the campaign map that will help you out with it. Now, you also have structures in the settlements you control that can help you out with these things. So you've got construction management over here, and then you've got the settlements that you do have on the campaign to help you with that. Now, some of the things that are going to be important to construct in settlements are going to be furs, textiles, officers. So you're going to want schools. You're going to want textile production. You're going to want schoolhouses for officer points, and then eventually you're going to want to switch to and eventually you're going to want to switch to other things as well. But I'd say officers are important, textiles are important, materials are important early on in a campaign. Now, constructing these things, like if we look at these structures, we can see the cost. We can see the cost in materials. We can see the cost in other things, right? We can see the gold cost, and we can see the cost in the materials report and how that's going to be handled. So just be aware of what you've got on your hands and plan on dealing with that situation, because it is going to be pretty important to manage this right. Then you have the market. In the market, you can buy guns, you can sell things. So you can, like, for instance, you can, like, if you go to the left, you can obviously sell a bunch of these guns. If you go to the right, you can buy whatever is available on the market. And this applies to your own resources as well, though in this case, like, obviously I can't buy construction materials. So some things are available, some things are not available. That is what is important to understand. So you can buy ships, you can buy various things. I'd probably buy a lot of guns early on, though I would also look to set up production of guns as quickly as possible. You do get the army management, so you can see all the units that you do have over here. Now, units will need a couple of things. They will need guns. So let's take a look at, let's say, a unit in a settlement, because that's where you can edit it. Units will, regiments are made up of various companies. Now, these companies will need guns. They will need officers. There's a regiment commander, and then there's each company that also has an officer. So you have lower-ranking officers, you have higher-ranking officers. And both of them can be killed. And both of them are really strategic resources to consider. So, like, over here, you can see that these units are lacking in the officers at the moment in the campaign. So that's something that is important. Also, there's a lot of things that are mentioned here. So you do not have any prisons. So actually getting hold of prisoners is going to be pretty important to manage. So you have to build everything from scratch in order to manage it. Then you have the colony management. So one of the things you can do in the colony management is, like, you can assign a doctrine to a colony to develop it in a certain way. So, like Boston, obviously, I want to focus on, production, whereas in Connecticut, I want to focus on construction. So these will cost various things, like there's a cost in terms of this. You can also assign various other things. So you can assign the development procedure. So you don't have to micromanage everything. Instead, you can just give control to the AI, let them focus on various things in order to free yourself up. Or you can certainly micromanage everything if you so desire. Then you've got foreign relations, though right now there doesn't seem to be anything related to foreign relations. And most crucially, you have the headquarters. Now, there are various departments that you can unlock. Now, I've unlocked everything with the exception of the Department of the Navy, which is important. What you'll be able to get very quickly is the Quartermaster Chief. Like, you won't start as Commander-in-Chief, but you will very shortly be appointed as Commander-in-Chief. What you want to get, what you'll then be able to get are Quartermaster Chief, and so the Quartermaster Department and the Chief Engineer, the Engineering Department. And then eventually get the Intelligence Department and Artillery Department. Now, why is this important? What do these departments do? Well, they have various research that can unlock things. I'd say the most important thing to unlock here is for the Commander-in-Chief tree. There are two things you can do here that are very, very significant. One is you can get the Continental Army. This will take 72 days, unless you're willing to risk spending all their reputation points, 72, in order to unlock it pretty much instantly. The other thing is that you can unlock an extra general. In this case, the traitorous Benedict Arnold, who isn't a traitor right now, though we'll see how that plays out. But all the same, there are various things to unlock, many things to unlock that are obviously going to be important, various buildings. and units. It depends, of course, on department, but you do want to be researching things here because to increase your potential in the campaign as quickly as possible. So you want to, like, obviously it makes sense. Like, you can unlock with engineering, you can get more muskets. With the commander-in-chief, you can get more unit types, dragoons, all that. So getting access to cavalry is going to be pretty important. Now, it does unlock in a certain number of days. But what do these departments do beyond that? Well, one of the things, those are specific projects to these departments, but then you also have global projects that any department or most departments can do. Though some of the global projects are locked. So over here, for instance, since I'm lacking low-ranking officers, one of the things I'm obviously going to do is recruitment of the low ranks to fill up all of these units that have taken such a significant level of damage for all the battles I'm fighting. And taking over Boston was not a cheap effort. That much I could say. But let's look at these departments. There are various other benefits they give. So there's passive benefits. So in this case, I'm getting 1 general limit, unit experience, recruitment project cost. Intelligence helps with loyalty and helps with dispatches. Various other benefits as well. I'm not going to go over them. Though intelligence is important because you only directly control the units, or you instantly control only the units in the radius of the general. It's not necessarily the circle over here, but it is the radius that the general is the general area that your general is situated in. And that is an important thing to know, because the reason that's an important thing to know with respect to intelligence, because when you give orders to other units, they are going to they're going to be delayed reporting. So you will get reports about enemy movement, and you'll get reports about what your guys are going. You can obviously increase the intelligence cost in order to you can make the intelligence better by spending money on it and assigning an officer that's going to handle it. So each department needs someone to be in charge of it. Then you've got the Department of Artillery, which of course is responsible for your ammunition, for gun production, etc. But crucially can also be responsible for training. So if you want more experience on your units, you can do so, though it is going to cost ammunition, and that is something you're going to have to be aware of. What's your ammunition level, how much you can spend. You then have the Quartermaster Department. Quartermaster, as you might imagine, it involves how many supplies you have, the limit of those supplies, provisions, so food, yes, soldiers do need food, and crucially the army limit. Getting Quartermaster is important very quickly because it allows you to recruit a lot of units very quickly, and that's how you take Boston. You recruit a ton of units. Like, look at me, I'm at the cap pretty much, or very, very close to the cap over here through that. In fact, you can even temporarily go over that limit, just be aware of what you're doing. Then you have the engineer. So engineer handles production, construction, and resources consumed by projects. But one of the most important things to understand about, like, the engineer is he can give you factory production, like get an additional production points by leasing it from small businesses. Because you will start with no production and you'll have to build it all up. But with the chief engineer, you can rely on local businesses and the settlements you have, based on the number of settlements you have, in order to increase your production. And this goes back to this tab, because right now I went from 1 production point to 12, and now I'm able to produce muskets, and eventually, I'll be able to produce other things as well here. Now, of course, there is a limit. So you got to decide, like, how many muskets do you want versus how much ammunition you want. Those are the kind of things that are important. And I think the game doesn't necessarily do a great job at explaining some of these things to you. So one of the ways to make your campaign situation far easier, get Quartermaster as quickly as possible to increase your army sizes, then get Chief Engineer get the maximum factory cap, capture every settlement that you can, maximize factory cap, ammunition production, civilian musket production, gun, artillery production, and then equip all of the troops that you have as quickly as possible. So over here, I'm just going to balance things out. And once I obviously get more production up and running, that will work even better. Those are some of the things to keep in mind. Now, how do you defeat the AI in this situation? How do you force them out of Boston? Well, make sure when you're fighting battles, just a very important thing to understand, make sure you fight as many battles as you can manually. Focus on local superiority of forces. And I've unlocked the Fusiliers. And yeah, the Dragoons over there are harassing my guys all the way to the fort. That is obviously pretty annoying. It is a situation that I did to myself. And over here, we're going to get Mr. Benedict Arnold. More research. You will gain quite a decent amount of reputation by taking territories and winning battles, as you might expect. But right here, I also need some muskets. Though keep in mind, just because you have things doesn't mean that your troops are instantly going to get them. It does take a while for those supply lines to become active and for things to be done. Also be wary of the British fleet, because the British fleet obviously is significantly superior to anything you have access to. And those are some of the things to keep in mind at the moment with respect to playing the game. Especially important to be able to get production up and running as quickly as possible, increasing your army limit, getting access to Fusiliers, especially. You will start with some, but being able to replenish those units. So for instance, right here, is going to be pretty important. Also, individual units can switch their guns. So over here, I'm just going to equip them with all the brown besses that I do have. Though there seems to be a bug that until you unlock the Continental Army, you can't actually switch the guns out. Now, obviously, regular companies will be better. Than like regular Fusilier regiments will obviously be better in combat than militias, significantly better. One annoying factor right now, though, is the following. You can edit units, but like you will have a lot of like these kind of, you may have quite a few of these like starting units. So the Pennsylvania militia over here, that are limited to 3 units. When in reality, what the limit actually is 4. So that is a bit frustrating. Though you can always disband them. Get back your guns, create more companies, and start actually producing. Things that you will use, because that's a real army. That's a real army that you could use. What is the problem there? Well, the problem is that I don't have any artillery to use at the moment. But you can always create a unit and then add the artillery later on, like edit the units over here. So over here I can worry about that later. Though one of the things that may be important to actually get would be skirmishers as quickly as possible. Though, how do I get access to those skirmishers? Or do only militia have access to skirmishers? It certainly looks like that, and it might be important to have combined brigades, because like multiple units, when they're together, one of the things you can do is like take them and form a brigade with them, and then when you have a general, you can form an army with units. So one of the benefits of having militia companies may be to actually keep those kind of skirmishers, because having those skirmishers is actually going to be rather important to your success, if you will, in terms of campaign success. Anyway, that's all for now. Questine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.